Hey, it's the Abstractionist. I'm here for Jupiter, the winter reading. So, this reading is for people with significant Jupiter placements in their chart, whether it be something like a conjunction, an opposition, part of a stellium. It doesn't really matter. This is also, I guess, if you're going to do it by zodiac, I don't read by zodiac, hence a planetary reading. Sagittarius, and maybe Pisces. Okay. So I'm using two decks, the Darkness of Light Tarot and the Lover's Tarot. So we have Hierophant, and then we have Death, King of Wands, Temperance, Four of Blades. So you're coming up on a big decision that could really change your life, some sort of status. It's not necessarily a leap of faith. I don't know. I kind of feel like you're not into that. So it's kind of weird that it would be kind of weird that you're watching, that you would be watching a tarot reading, because you don't seem like you would be that kind of person. There is a certain status. There's a certain moving up that's happening. And maybe because the Hierophant, it's not the Emperor. The King of Wands, kind of, you would think that like the Emperor would be the next step, but the Hierophant kind of trumps the Emperor in many ways, right? Like historically, the religious figures, yeah, they were just religious figures. They didn't rule over a kingdom, but they definitely had certain power over the rulers of kingdoms. And so you may be stepping into a role of authority that is outside of your kingdom, so to speak. It could be that there is a vacancy in this. Almost like if you were somebody who goes to a pastor all the time, and all of a sudden your pastor disappeared, like where would you get that spiritual authority from? And I think you would have to get it from yourself. For this Four of Blades, you could be referring to old texts, religious texts. You could be referring to old passages of religious texts, or old writings you have, or old examinations that you had of like religious leaders or religions from the world. You may not be set in any religion, but you could be set in your intention to be a religious or spiritual authority in your life. And I think it's because there's a vacancy there, because you no longer perhaps look to an external figure. How I wanted to put these was like this, and then all of these four would be surrounding it. So there's a need to find an order within oneself, because there's a vacancy out there. It could literally be that your religious leader who you went to has passed. And so in many ways, with the Death card, there's a void there. You won't really know how significant this person was until you start to push up against certain questions that they had to deal with. When it comes to religious, like code of ethics, code of law, code of morals, implementing that, enforcing that if you become an authority for others. You could be an initiate and you've suddenly lost your like leader, mentor, and that is a void that really needs to take place, particularly when it comes to leadership and how to keep balance and control, because you may be a novice at this, especially if you initiated, and you have to go through certain cycles. You may get passed through those cycles pretty quickly because there's a void or a need that needs to be filled. If it's not that, it's you're passing through these passages, you're going through these rites of passage. I mean, it's very confusing because I think the lead authority may be gone. It could be that they haven't passed, they're just not there, and there may be other lesser people under them that have been charged with giving you the instruction. Now, with this death, you may not trust those people, and this may be your first awakening, and the first slouching off, I don't know how to pronounce it, off the naivete that you have around religion and its piety and its a kind of impenetrable barrier of holiness, that there are corruptible elements even in religion, and that people are human, and so those things can happen. There was an article that I just kind of read where the Pope basically said that there's the article said there's elegant demons amongst us, or amongst you all, and basically was just saying that like there's a lot of issues that he's seeing and he's needing them to be corrected, right? Because if you're gonna be like these authority leaders, you need to have your shit together in certain aspects, right? You're not perfect, you're never gonna be there, but you need to be the authority in your life and many aspects of your life, right? Like to the point where like the only other person you're seeing and communicating with is God, right? There's very few other authorities in your life. You have obligations, right? Like taxes and stuff like that, like, you know, vows that you keep to other people, your romantic relationships, keeping your word, being charitable and stuff like that. But there's very few like actual authorities that you are beholden to. I think that you'll learn that through this process. I think that you'll understand in your relating to God, or what you think God is, or whatever God is for what you're going through, that there are very few things that cannot be bypassed. I think this temperance card is kind of funny because to me it's just kind of like ask and it shall be given kind of energy. Like you play the music, you write down what you want, you put out the processes, your reasonings why, and it can be done. Some of you guys are doing ancestral work. Congrats, yay. Like I'm doing that. I do stuff like that. But I do feel like this is a more formal kind of tradition where there's actual hierarchies and ranks. I would say if you see kind of certain things, hypocrisies, I guess, in your religion, it may not be like necessary to throw it all away. It could be necessary to evaluate and to make sure that you're understanding the true leaders, the true connected ones, and use their words of wisdom. You may have to call out some of those people who are fakes and bring their not reputation to an end, but kind of warn people about them. Like it may become more of an obligation as time goes on, that you warn people about that, because that could make everyone in total look bad, but it could harm people. So an example of this, it's not religious, but it's like in the spiritual vein, would be like tarot. Like there's a lot of readers on here that really aren't good. Worse, they keep people stuck. They're not really called to do it. It's more of an opportunistic thing. And you may be required, and please Lord, don't be this, let this be for me, but you may be required to like sound the alarm on certain things like that, right? And so you may be like a whistleblower in that way. You'll know that it's right because you'll feel called to do it. It won't be something where someone told you to do it. It'll be you got the directive straight from like God, knowing God. And I think whatever religion, whatever group, whatever thing you do spiritually, religiously, you'll have to know God for yourself. I kind of feel like regardless of mediators, regardless of intermediaries, whatever, you're gonna have to know God for yourself. You're gonna have to be connected to God without those things. And that may break, with this death card, that may break the tradition of how this thing functions, because for some religions it may be very strict that you don't talk to God yourself, like you talk to him via something else, him, it, she, whatever. And so what may happen is you may end up being someone who keeps like the certain core elements of a certain religious or spiritual practice, but then there's other things that you branch out into based on having to have a personal relationship with God, divine spirit. There may be certain elements that you don't keep of that religion, you know what I'm saying, based on that, because it would require an intermediary and you wouldn't need it. For some things, they may be really in conflict with other beliefs, and so you have to make sure that you maybe in the beginning are quite strict are quite strict with how you get down with certain practices, right? Until you find out what works for you. Once you do that, then you'll be good. But try and figure out what works for you, and try and figure out what is acceptable from the divine. As time goes on, you may feel like you've gotten a lot of favor from the divine where others have not. And it's just because I think you were willing to question the ability to have a relationship with divine one-on-one, as opposed to having an intermediary. Having a mentor was fine, but I think that the issue that you were thinking may have been that this intermediary, when you needed to go to the divine, would kind of try and block your path from seeking a direct kind of highway, a direct, spiritual highway to source, God, Gaia, whatever you want to say. And so, yeah, this void causes you to step into your own authority and to question things, and I think to realize things about yourself and where you're going with this relationship. And it highlights the need for you to fill the void with an actual relationship and putting more effort into it on your own, instead of perhaps, if you've done it before, kind of riding on the good graces of someone else's spiritual labor, as opposed to putting in your own. So that's what I have for you, Jupiter. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.